The Ferryman. We first saw the Ferryman in Annabelle Comes Home, though he also shows up in the Warrens case files from 1921. He's basically that creepy toll guy who doesn't bother with coins anymore. He just snatches your soul instead. But where does he actually come from? The Ferryman, or Karen, if you want to sound fancy, first shows up in Greek history around 500 BC. We know this because archaeologists found old jars and pots with his picture painted on them. And no, he didn't crawl out of the artwork like some horror movie villain. Those paintings were the ancient version of storyboards. I mean, the Greeks were basically saying, when you die, this guy rows you across a creepy river. But Karen wasn't running a charity. He charged a coin toll for every soul. That's why families started burying people with coins in the eyes, under the tongue, wherever. I mean, imagine your relative stressing, "Don't forget 2 coins for Grandpa, or he's stuck haunting the riverbank forever." Archaeologists have found plenty of graves with coins still there, which means people really believed this moody boatman was waiting for them. Malthus, the demon behind Annabelle. Malthus isn't merely a demon James Wan pulled out of thin air for the Conjuring Universe. His name's actually been floating around for over 2,000 years. The earliest mention of him shows up in the Dead Sea Scrolls, written around the 3rd century BCE. These scrolls were tucked away in caves near the Dead Sea, where they sat for centuries until archaeologists cracked them open in the 1940s and 50s. Inside, a mix of religious laws, apocalyptic warnings, and notes about nasty spirits. And sure enough, Malthus gets a shout-out, not as Annabelle's doll buddy, but as a destructive force to be feared. Now, fast forward to the 1600s, and Malthus pops up again in the Lesser Key of Solomon. This was basically a demon directory for wannabe sorcerers. In it, Malthus is ranked as an Earl of Hell, not the top boss like Valak, but still in middle management with legions of spirits under him. Creepy middle management, that is. Later, cults like the Disciples of Ram even worshipped him, proving some folks really need better hobbies. And in the Conjuring Universe, Malthus became the demon tied to the Annabelle doll, using it as a conduit to terrorize families, spread fear, and ultimately claim souls. Valak the Nun. Valak first appeared in The Conjuring 2, where he showed up as the terrifying nun. But that's just Hollywood's makeover. His roots stretch way back, long before he was lurking in abbeys and scaring churchgoers. The earliest known trace of Valak in the Conjuverse timeline is around 500 CE, nearly 1,500 years before the Warrens ever walked into a haunted house. Historical texts describe him as the Marquis of Snakes. Not exactly the nun outfit you'd expect. Later in the demonology book, The Lesser Key of Solomon, Valak is ranked as a president of hell, way above Malthus on the infernal career ladder. Forget middle management, this guy commanded entire legions. According to Conjuverse lore, Valak was first unleashed by the Duke of St. Carta, a noble with a hobby for witchcraft. The Duke painted serpentine symbols, performed a dark ritual, and accidentally brought Valak into the world. The church rushed in mid-ceremony, sealing him with a holy relic said to contain the blood of Christ, and thought they'd solve the problem. Spoiler, they hadn't. Centuries later, World War II bombings cracked the seal. By 1952, Valak slipped free from the Abbey of St. Carta, took on his most famous disguise, the evil nun, and cemented himself as the deadliest force in the Conjuring Universe. La Llorona. La Llorona, the main antagonist in The Curse of La Llorona, is one of the oldest and creepiest stories from Mexican folklore. Basically, the ghost mom nobody wants to run into at night. The story usually starts with a woman who seemed to have it all. She was beautiful, admired, and had kids of her own. But then her man decided to be trash. Some versions say he cheated, others say he was going to leave her for someone better. Either way, she completely lost it. In a storm of heartbreak and anger, she dragged her kids to the river and drowned them. And then, like instant regret, like the world's fastest case of oops. Horrified at what she'd done, she jumped into the river herself. But instead of moving on, she got cursed. Her soul was stuck here forever, doomed to wander around crying for her kids. That's why people call her La Llorona, which literally means the weeping woman. For generations, folks swore they could hear her wails at night near rivers. Parents even used her as kind of a bedtime security system. Don't stay out after dark, or La Llorona will think you're her kid and drag you into the water. Basically, she was the original boogie woman. Scary, tragic, and oddly effective at keeping kids home on time. Bathsheba Sherman.
It's already gone.
Bathsheba Sherman was a real woman from Rhode Island in the 1800s. Born Bathsheba Thayer in 1812, she later married a farmer named Judson Sherman, and together they settled into a farmhouse in Harrisville. At first glance, it looked like ordinary farm life. But the neighbors? They started whispering that Bathsheba had witchcraft hobbies. Those whispers exploded into legend around 1870, when one of her babies died under strange circumstances. The rumor was that Bathsheba had sacrificed the child to Satan, using a sewing needle to pierce the baby's skull. Was it ever proven? No, not at all. But in a small 19th century town, you didn't need proof. Gossip alone was enough to turn her into the witch on the hill. According to local lore, Bathsheba's story ended just as grimly. She supposedly climbed a tree on her property, tied a rope around her neck, and cursed anyone who dared live on her land. That same tree later became one of the creepiest symbols in The Conjuring. So, was Bathsheba really a witch, or just the victim of small-town drama gone wild? No one knows for sure. What we do know is her name never died, and her farmhouse still carries the reputation of being one of the most haunted places in America. Isla Kastner, the occultist. Isla Kastner didn't come from your average family. She was born in the 1930s in Connecticut as the secret daughter of a Catholic priest. Her mother died giving birth, and instead of fessing up, Father Kastner decided to stash his daughter away in an old mill. And surprise, surprise, that kind of childhood doesn't exactly make you grow up to be a dentist. By her 20s, Isla broke away from her father and ran straight into the arms of a satanic cult. She discovered Stregheria, an old Italian book on witchcraft. Most people would flip through it and think, wow, creepy bedtime story. Isla read it like it was IKEA instructions. She built an altar, carved witch totems, and started following the recipe for a ritual that needed 3 sacrifices: a lover, a child, and a man of God. At that point, she wasn't just Isla anymore. She was the occultist. Unlike demons with fancy ancient backstories, Isla was pure human, which somehow made her worse. Proof that sometimes the scariest monsters don't crawl out of hell. They grow up in your backyard with daddy issues in a satanic storybook. The Crooked Man. The Crooked Man was first introduced to an old English nursery rhyme, printed back in the 1840s. On the surface, it was a harmless little verse about crooked cats, crooked houses, and a crooked mile. The kind of thing you'd read to kids and then wonder why they refuse to sleep with the lights off. Historians think there might be some truth hiding behind the rhyme. One theory says the Crooked Man was really Sir Alexander Leslie, a Scottish general who made a shaky truce with England in the 1600s. Another point to Lavenham, Suffolk, a town where the houses literally tilted and sagged over time. I mean, imagine walking through a village where every building looks like it's auditioning for the Leaning Tower of Pisa. That's enough to make anyone start talking about crooked men. As the years went by, the story got creepier. Later versions turned the Crooked Man into a confusing figure who hanged himself, came back as a ghost and would stalk you if you dared to recite the rhyme out loud. In The Conjuring 2, he finally shows up as a tall and bent nightmare with a cane. But the big reveal? In The Conjuverse, the Crooked Man isn't his own demon at all. He's just Valak in disguise, proving that even hell's scariest entities like to play dress-up. The Bride. The Bride comes from one of the creepiest wedding stories you'll ever hear. Back in the 1800s in Pennsylvania, there was a woman named Anna Baker who fell in love, but her rich family refused to let her marry the man she really wanted to. She died heartbroken, and people said her unworn wedding dress became haunted. Locals even swore the gown would move on its own, like her ghost was still pacing in frustration. That legend became the foundation for tales of cursed bridal gowns. Now, the Conjuverse spins that old idea into the terrifying story of Quinn Lane. She discovered her fiancé cheating and absolutely lost it. In a bloody rampage, she murdered him, both their parents, and even gouged out their eyes. That wedding reception went downhill fast. After Quinn's death, her spirit clung to her wedding dress. And this wasn't just any dress, it came with a terrifying feature. Every time it was involved in a killing, the blood simply vanished, leaving the gown perfectly clean, like it was ready for the next poor soul to slip it on. Ed and Lorraine Warren eventually got hold of that cursed dress, locking it away in their artifact room. But when the case was opened and Annabelle comes home, the bride wasted no time making her entrance, knife in hand, gown spotless, and ready for her next happily never after. Creepy as she is, the bride is only one ghost in a universe packed with demons and monsters, which raises the real question. When the horrors of The Conjuring go toe-to-toe with the nightmares of Insidious, who actually comes out on top? That clash is wild, and it all gets broken down in The Conjuring vs. Insidious Demons, explained in 15 minutes. Let the battle begin.